My understanding is that the statistics for adults who are in custody who've completed Year 12 is incredibly low. So less than 5% is my understanding. We understand in our society that education plays such an important role in the way in which you can interact within our society. Without education, without school, you're in a lot of trouble. I mean, that's obvious. In fact, I've often heard it mentioned that one of the greatest protective factors against incarceration is not merely completion of Year 12, but staying in school to Year 12. So the longer that you can stay in school is a great protective factor against you ending up in custody. We have a problem with our education system in that people that display antisocial behaviour or aren't meeting developmental norms with behaviour are systematically excluded from schools. This is a real problem for our society. We often look at Finland as a high-performing education system, and there's a whole range of reasons why that's the case. I often look at the fact that within their Comprehensive Education Act it states that no child should be definitively excluded from any school in Finland. We need to make a move like that because our prisons are full of people that were excluded from a young age. And I'm confident of this. I get to see the statistics particularly within the state system, Victorian government schools. If a child is behind their reading levels by grade 1, we put intensive supports around the child because we understand that a transition occurs around about grade 2 where you, up until that age, you learn to read. After that stage, you make a transition to reading to learn. And if you miss that transition, that bridge, then you start to see behavioural issues become more and more pronounced, right? Because you don't know what's going on at school. But strangely, while we wrap extra supports around a child who's behind in reading, a child with significant behavioural issues, we begin to exclude. So either with the teacher aide out of the classroom, out of the group, to the principal's office, coordinator's office, or you don't have to come in afternoons until maybe there's a more suitable school elsewhere for you. And that is standard, that if my child's behind in their reading at grade 5, I could bet that they will get more attention in class and extra support. If my child's not meeting the developmental norms of behaviour in grade 5, they're flipping a table, swearing at a teacher, then they'll be removed from the school. It's a strange thing that we do. It's particularly when what I spoke about this morning was that education in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that it should be directed towards the full development of the human personality, and it states that it should promote respect, tolerance and understanding amongst all people. It doesn't say we must progress rapidly in literacy or reading early on, and I think we're a bit lost in education and within our school system about what it is that we're actually setting out to achieve. Unfortunately, within Victoria, we can have children as young as 10, which is hard to say, but it is the case. It doesn't happen so often, but we do have reasonable numbers of 10 to 14-year-olds in custody. We go all the way up to 21. Every child detained in custody in Victoria through the Children's Court comes to our school, and we also have a dual track system with Malmesbury Youth Justice Centre and Cullity for the girls, where 18 to 21-year-olds can opt in to being a part of youth justice rather than the adult prison. And we provide our children and young people with an education that I would hope that anyone would be very happy with for their children. We provide 6 hours a day, 7 days a week of Victorian government school education. We're really focused on kids achieving year 10, 11 and 12. We have a focus on philosophy and legal studies. So in philosophy, within the state system, it's sort of as good as it gets for understanding your actions and consequences and how that might impact on someone else, morality, ethics, which we think is pretty important for our kids. And legal studies we do because it's good for them to understand what they're involved in the criminal justice system, but also they do really well in it because they do understand it so well. So we get pretty good scores in that. We run art, we run music, we run lots of vocational education, everything from building, hairdressing, landscaping, painting, we try whatever we can, welding. We have a focus on physical education and we have kids playing, we try to focus on team sports and working together. And what we found is that I put out the call to my colleagues within the state system and we just didn't get the response we would have liked for other schools to put their hands up and say, yes, we'd love to come in and play a game with your kids. But what we found is that the Catholic sector has been overwhelming in their response to come in. We have to literally say, look, not today, because we have so many schools committed to coming in even for a game of basketball. A game of, some days we have multiple schools coming through, like Marcelin or De La Salle or Parade have been really strong with us. Coming in we have 8 different units of kids that don't really mix. So they're in, depending on their age or their crime, into those units, or their vulnerability, they're placed in it. So we sometimes have a group of kids come in with a school and they'll play 6 different units, in the day to make sure no one misses. Yeah. So it's been quite remarkable, and it's so important for our kids to learn to mix in that way, that, you don't have to punch on. You don't have to, you can enjoy. And often now we'll get, but Parade's a good example, who've come in a lot, that when they come in, it's not Parade versus one of our units anymore. The kids sort of know each other, so they'll just mix and pick a team that's mixed, which is really nice. It's great for us, and we're so appreciative. We just don't have, must be something, I don't know, within our way of thinking to not think of the child as part of the family. We need to change that thinking, because in this country in particular, children being removed from families, I don't think anyone's thought has been a really good idea. Yet we're doing that. We're perpetuating the removal of children from families. Just as I was talking about before with the fact that we take kids out of school if they're misbehaving, not meeting their developmental markers for behaviour. One could argue, and I think very successfully, that those kids in fact need more time at school. Right? I feel the same about the involvement of family. A lot of most children in custody have had significant trauma and have had significant family issues. They have fractured relationships with family for a whole range of reasons. Yet what we do is we take the child out of the family and think we can, as a society, try to get that child right by paying little attention to family on the outside and how the family's operating. And the family and the child are what needs the support to come together. Child will go back to family. Mum will always be mum. Dad will always be dad. Brother will always be brother. So we really need, within youth justice, if we're serious about rehabilitation, which I don't think we have been, then we need to bring families in. And we need them to be a central part of the child and the family, as part of that family unit, being supported in how to operate successfully and sustainably together. Yeah, the way I see it, the education of the children's the easy bit. I think the education of our society is the great challenge. I don't think that we're clear on the purpose of school. We don't know what we want from school. In fact, there's no department, state or federal, that offers a definition of what is school, nor what is the purpose of school. Like, we're not clear on that. For some schools, it's to get into university. For other schools, it's to keep, there's a wide range in between. What we want from school as a society needs to be a focus, because if we decide we want inclusion, we want belonging, we want people to get along, then I imagine that would necessarily start to chip away at the idea of exclusion, which is I see it as this sort of sickness within our society, because it just fills prisons. So we need to have a strong understanding that we are all better as a society for keeping that child who is proving to be behaviourally challenging at school. And that often I'll hear that's not the role of the teacher or that's not the role of the school. Well, I think it is. Because if we think about the education of the whole person, certainly that's a very important component of that person. And the fact that the child who might be excluded from school is acting out at school would say to me, that's a cry for help from functional, mature adults. They need help, not to be told to leave the grounds. They need extra support. You could argue that school could finish at 2 because there's a lot of downtime at school. It goes pretty slow in your primary schools late in the day. And that the kids that need extra help, that all the teachers could load up in the last hour and a half and support those kids that really need it, really have an intense focus on them, will make our society much healthier. But we need a sharp understanding in our society that school, just like the Universal Declaration states, should be directed towards the full development of the human personality. And it should promote respect, tolerance and understanding amongst all people. Reading and writing, my argument is that, and your maths and your science, that's the easy bit. It's when you get the kid feeling good about themselves and feeling really connected, that's the challenging bit. And once you get children feeling well, feeling confident, feeling included, then the learning can accelerate.